Hello everyone, welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Matthew. Matthew is from Maine in the USA. So let's see what Matthew has to say. Enjoy the interview. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello Matthew, I'm very well. How are you doing today?
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing Matthew, amazing. Right, before we start the game, just tell me where you're from.
I live in Maine in the United States.
Right, and what's the best part of living in Maine?
My favorite part of living in Maine is the autumn foliage. It's really beautiful this time of year. All the different leaves changing is just stunning.
Great. In London as well. In London is the fall now, and just the change of the leaves of the trees, just beautiful. The colorful around is beautiful.
So pretty.
Yes. And what do you do for a living?
I work as a life and love coach. So I predominantly work with clients one-on-one or in couples who, it could be anywhere from their dating life, but predominantly I work with a lot of queer people who are potentially trying to figure out where they're at in their sexuality or gender spectrum, etc. So it's been really lovely for me because, as a gay man, I, of course, have my own experiences, but then to have other people in the community coming in and sharing their journeys with me, if I can provide that kind of space for them, it's also really enlightening for me to hear their stories.
That's amazing, Matthew. And how long have you been doing this job for?
I would say that I got certified to teach I got certified in life coaching probably 4 years ago. My dad was a life coach as well, so I've always kind of had that growing up as part of the atmosphere. And I started doing wellness stuff probably about a decade ago. I got certified in yoga and then Reiki and then life coaching. And prior to that, I grew up doing musical theater and dance. So this was a little bit of a shift from maybe living in New York or somewhere like that and doing the audition circuit all the time. And the lifestyle for me, as much as I love and have a passion for performance. So when I chose, I'm gonna not do that, I moved more into the wellness programs, and I've really enjoyed it.
Amazing. And I'm sure for queer people, for gay people, I'm sure it's always nice and good to have some life coaching people to support us, because there are so many questions out there that sometimes it's difficult for us to understand, or for us to, sometimes we find our place in this place that we think that only us are facing that we are only one, but for sure there are so many people around the globe as well facing the same kind of moments or experience in life that you think that we are alone. But it's good to open up to those professionals, because they know exactly what's going on. And being queer as well, I think for you makes a difference, as you said before, as your own life experience as well.
Absolutely. I find a lot of people that I work with, even if they have therapists, etc., that they go to and talk to, there's just some things that are really challenging to open up to when you're that vulnerable, where, I grew up always having a really wonderful support system, friends, family, etc. So even when it was awkward or confusing, I was able to get through it because I had that safety net. And part of what kept me coming back to this as an idea of what I wanted to do with my career was the number of people who were coming in the door basically saying, it's just so nice to have someone I can talk to, because I feel like I never have anybody I can open up to and be myself around, and I'm just constantly keeping who I am inside. And that's just never been me. I've always been right on the surface anyway. I can't help it. So it's I hear where they're coming from, but I'm like, oh my gosh. So to be able to be somebody that they go, okay, you've been through some of this. Maine is very progressive in a lot of ways, but I grew up in an area that wasn't necessarily particularly filled with a lot of gay people and, role models. So if somebody is going through something similar, whether they're younger or, this day and age, there's a lot of people in their, 50s on up who are just for the first time going, am I gay? Have I been gay my whole life and just kind of put it off to the side because I just didn't even consider it. That wasn't an option, so we all just did the thing and had our families and raised our children. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, maybe that was something I did and that's not my whole story, which is fantastic. Open that new chapter.
Absolutely. I think nowadays as well, there are so many information out there, you know what I mean? It's more kind of visible nowadays, you know what I mean? It's more kind of approachable.
Exactly.
But even though there are so many people still, because of society, because of this, because of that, religion, family, so a lot of people, they're still trapped in some a life that they even don't know the other life out there that they found themselves, you know what I mean? So it's good. I think those professionals are always clap to them, because they are, you know what I mean, they do a big job, they do a lot. I think they explore a lot of people's mind and people desire and people about this, being themselves, you know what I mean? I think it's always and it's good to have support as well. I think, you know what I mean, when I open up, and I'll tell you something now. I recently, a few weeks ago, I went for do a checkup, overall checkup, and the nurse who I did talk to, my God, he was so approachable. He made me feel so comfortable. That's one point. I literally forgot that I went there to do a checkup where, you know what I mean, can be a bit anxious, you get a bit anxious, don't know what's happening, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh my God, I left there. I was like, wow, you know what I mean? I felt like I was talking to a friend. I felt, oh my God, I just want to come back every day to have a chat with you.
Right. Having that connection can be really nourishing and healing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Okay, for the interview, I'm gonna ask a little bit more about your career, okay?
Perfect.
But for now, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and to share your point of view? For sure. So welcome to William and the Magic Box. Here my lovely box full of wonderful questions. I'm just gonna play a song now just for us to move a little bit before the first question, okay?
Beautiful.
Let's do it, Matthew. There we go. Somebody's gonna help me there. Okay, Matthew, before I pick up the first question, if there is a question you don't have an answer for, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay? It's all very friendly, all right?
Beautiful.
First question for you is, what is the biggest risk have you ever taken?
The biggest risk that I've ever taken was coming out the second time to my family, because the first time I came out was as a homosexual male, which was when I was more in my mid-latter teens. And because I work so closely with people in their dating and sex lives, I have over the last 10 years been identifying as a sex worker as well, because I do have a very embodied practice and I really try to get in there and talk to people and work with people. And along with noticing how few people had anyone to talk to, I was also incredibly alarmed by the number of people who just didn't have a single human in their lives that they had any physical touch from. So having that sort of like cuddle therapy thing was very early on part of what I was trying to offer people, you know, someone to give a hug, you know, hello and goodbye, have that intimate connection with. And so as I started being more and more in that world, and because I've also always been a very creative, artistic, naked person, one thing led to another, and then it got to the point where I realized, wow, you know, I'm back in a closet again because I'm essentially a sex worker. And as I said, I'm not the type of person to keep secrets from my close friends and family. So I had to come back out again and be like, hey, mom and dad, hey, friends and family, like, this is what I'm doing with my life now. And, you know, it was nice having already had the experiences from my teenage years of knowing that, again, even if it was uncomfortable or awkward, that I had that loving support, because basically their reaction was, of course, to ask questions, you know, make sure I'm being safe, you know, what do I mean by this or that? But generally, you know, the overarching theme was, when people heard that, they were like, oh, of course you are. And also, you know, as long as you're happy. So that was a big risk for me in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it was funny because in some ways I was like, they're fine. They're gonna be there for me at the end of the day.
And they've always been there for you?
They have been, yeah. They've been amazing. You know, I can't, again, I don't think I would be able to be such a support system for other people if I hadn't just always, since childhood, had so many wonderful people in my life to uplift me when I've been down. Because, you know, life is hard, and even being blessed and having so much in my life, materially and relationally, it's a struggle. So for the everyday person who's out there who's not getting any connection and they don't have someone to talk to or get a hug, I just feel for it, because to me, you know, that physical skin to skin contact is almost as important as eating food. You know, we can go a couple of days without water, without food, but water will, you know, we need water. And I think that we don't realize how often our health is affected by not having that contact.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it can. Oh my God, yes, it can. We, you know what I mean? Can change our point. It can. It's even a body condition as well. You know what I mean? When you don't have those touch, it just makes you feel like, my God. As I mentioned before, trapped. You don't know what's there. I think that you need to explore more. You need to be more open about things as well. Sometimes it starts with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it starts with ourselves. Next question. Let's do, Matthew. Next question for you is, if you could spend an entire day with a family member, who that would be and why?
I would probably spend my day with my mom. My mom has always been one of my best friends, but it's hard too because most of my family are my best friends. You know, I idolized my sister growing up to the point where when we were little kids, she hated it, you know. My mom would say, oh, imitation is the highest form of flattery. And she was like, yeah, but I want him to stop. So, but my sister and my younger brother, love them. But I think if I had to pick one, it would be my mom. She's just one of the most beautiful people inside and out. She homeschooled us, you know, raised us. Like, she's just, I can't imagine my life without her. So she would be the one.
Beautiful. She'll be very happy to watch this interview.
Absolutely.
Next question. Before the next question, Matthew, tell me about Maine. Maine would be, what's the difference? What's Maine sticks out of other states in the USA? What's the most important thing? What's the biggest difference, or the most important thing about Maine that you don't find anywhere else in the USA?
A lot of people come to Maine or go looking for the seafood, you know, like lobsters, etc. Growing up in Maine, you know, part of it would be having so much access to it, maybe, but also my parents never really had it around as much. So I didn't grow up eating a ton of it. I love seafood. We still have it here and there, but I remember in my, you know, late teens, early 20s, having other people say, oh, where can I go to get good seafood? And I'd be like, I don't know. And they're like, aren't you from Maine? I'm like, yes. So kind of a slacker on that end. But then the other thing is people always want to see a moose. And, you know, if you go up usually a little bit more north of us, especially like dusk or dawn time, there's decent chances you'll see moose. We used to go camping and go moose looking all the time. But down in the areas that I've always lived in Maine, I don't think I've ever seen a moose down this way. So when people are down here like, oh, where are all the moose? I'm like, you're not going to see them.
Interesting, very interesting. Next question for you is, what was your worst wardrobe mistake?
Oh my gosh. Well, lots of them, to be honest with you, especially when I was I didn't start paying attention to style of any kind until I was in my latter teens. But I did one time go to an event wearing a costume from a dance recital that I had been in that year. I was probably only like 9 or 10 years old, but the reason I was so insistent on it was that my sister was also wearing her outfit from the same number, which made a lot more sense. It looked like an outfit one would wear to an event like this. Mine was this obnoxious bell-bottomy 70s looking thing. And the dance we did that year happened to be a tap number, and I was certain that I had to wear my tap shoes. So I show up to this event in my crazy outfit with my tap shoes on, and I just think I'm like cool as anything. And everyone's like, good for you, Matthew. But then at one point, I'm trying to like show off some tap skills, and the floor we were on was slippery. It was like a tiled floor, and I slipped and fell and like banged my head on something. And there I am, just a little kid, already feeling kind of dumb. I'm like, yeah, maybe they were right. You know, they did try to talk me out of it. My mom and my sister were both like, this is probably not a good idea, Matthew. But I insisted, and then I slipped and banged my head, and I walked out of the room crying, and I was like, nope, I should have listened. So I'd say that was probably my biggest wardrobe mistake.
Wow, you have pictures of it or not?
I bet somewhere there's probably a photo of it, but I don't even know where to lay my hands on that at this point.
Next question, funny. Matthew, before the next question, tell me what's the most current questions that people come after your job or when they need you, like in the gay scene. What's the most frequent topic that people come after you for?
More often than not, I either get people asking me like, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened? Or they just ask about whether or not I've like how nice people are to me. You know, being in a very intimate profession, I think that it makes a lot of sense that people would be concerned like about me getting treated like an object, for example, or being disrespected in general by people. But I've found that people are generally really nice. You know, I very infrequently had anybody as a client who I felt disrespected by. And even when I have, it's mostly just because, you know, some people have personalities that are really abrasive and they don't always realize how abrasive they are. And I think that's predominantly been the issue. But I've only had to walk out on somebody once from a client situation. And beyond that, there have been people who I probably wouldn't want to have come back as a client, but I've never had to specifically say, hey, I can't meet with you anymore, because it's just never come up as an issue.
But for example, what their needs when they come to you? What the most frequent needs that they come after you? You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah. So most people are coming, and their biggest need is beyond just having somebody to talk to and bounce things off of when it comes to what's going on in their mind, and ask questions of. It really is that they need somebody to practice with. Essentially, I would say both when it comes to conversing with somebody about the stuff, but to be able to be in your body and take your clothes off in front of somebody, no matter who you are, no matter how good looking you are, etc. It's incredibly intimidating, especially when it's not something you're used to doing. So for a lot of people some of these people have never had sex in their entire lives. They might be new to the gay experience, and oftentimes even they might have had, you know, basically sex to procreate and have their children. But as far as being, you know, again, in their 40s, 50s, 60s on up, they might be very sexually inexperienced and never really take their clothes off around other people. So I would say that one of the biggest things for people is just that initial getting naked in front of somebody, feeling naked as far as being able to intimately talk about stuff. That's the thing most people really connect with, even when they didn't realize it. Like, I first started doing naked yoga when I got certified to do yoga. I started offering it naked, and part of what led me to Reiki and life coaching was that I realized, and my clients were realizing, that part of what they were looking for was more of that, like, just somebody that they could open up to, reveal themselves, and be actually naked physically, mentally, and emotionally with.
It's interesting saying that, because when I started this project last year, I came across somebody who is a professional yoga teacher, and he was doing yoga, naked yoga as well, that I never heard before.
Nice.
I was like, oh, wow, when he was talking to me, he was explaining to me, I was like, oh my God, it's amazing, I never heard before. And he was telling me about it. Very, very interesting. And he was explaining as well, like, just the fact you are naked, how much can you connect with others and with yourself as well, being naked doing the yoga. And it was very
Absolutely.
Telling me. Yeah. Okay, next question for you is, when have you been the most happy?
I have been the most happy in my life. It's funny because it's such a paradox. I am currently in a stage of my life that I'm probably the happiest I've ever been, because I'm living in this new home that me and my partner moved into 2 years ago. We got engaged just before that. I'm very happy with him. So other than COVID kind of coming in the door and shutting everything down, and my dad moved in with us for almost a year and a half, about 15 months, and that was a struggle for all three of us, just trying to get through the days with the craze of COVID. And so in some ways the last 2 years has been the hardest 2 years of my life, and in other ways it's also gotten me to this place where I just feel like, even though there's still some work to do to get moving forward again, and we're obviously not still out of the woods with COVID, I just feel very grateful and blessed and happy right now.
Very good, very good. I'm glad to know that. Good. Next question. Let's do it. Okay, Matthew, next question for you is, what is the worst thing someone can say on a first date?
The worst thing someone can say on a first date. I personally just think that if you're trying to personally put somebody down in a way, like if you're on a first date and you're being mean to somebody, it's obviously just not working. It's not going to go there. But I've been on dates where people will say things that they think are maybe joking around and cute, and it's not cute. I'm not a big fan of the, depreciative humor.
Yeah.
I had somebody one time who kept making fun of the fact that I said like a lot. They'd be like, oh, you say like so much, like this, like that. And I said, okay. And throughout the rest of the night, every time I used the word, they would say like.
Oh, no.
And by the end of the meal, when they came by for the check, I was very insistent that I wanted to pay for my half. And he kept trying to pay, to the point where even at the end, when I handed her, he handed her the checkbook with the 2 cards in it and took mine out and handed it to her so that he could pay for it. And when he asked if he could see me again, I was like, no, I'm actually all set. I appreciate it. Thank you for dinner. And he genuinely asked me why not? And I was like, you were kind of rude to me, like the whole night. So I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, you're not listening to what I need from you.
Absolutely. I think I'll feel uncomfortable as well. My God, I feel uncomfortable with someone who would spot this kind of thing. Come on, you know what I mean? At least you are spotting, just keep to yourself. You know what I mean? At least my first impression. It's about education, about you to make the person feel comfortable with the situation. You know what I mean? If you don't like, or if somebody's like repeating something, or just keep to yourself. You know what I mean? There's something it's about being educated, and you know what I mean? I would feel totally uncomfortable as well, and I don't think I'll be able to finish the meal.
Yeah. I wanted to just leave.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just finish this out. But I was surprised. He kept saying, oh, you should come out with me tonight. And I said, no, I got to get home. Being like, you can stay at my place. No, I got to get home. Oh, well, I'll just pay for an Uber for you to get home after. I was like, I just need to go. Thank you. Oh,
let's make worse and worse and worse.
Exactly.
Oh, dear. Next one. Next question for you is, what is one food you could eat for the rest of your life?
Oh my gosh. I mean, if it's a carb, I'm probably going to want it, but just a simple bread of any kind, bread and butter. I used to always say, when people asked if there was one food you had to eat for the rest of your life, I used to try to trick the system by saying I would have a piece of toast with butter on one half and then peanut butter and bananas on the other half. But I think if I had to, I would just say the bread and butter. That's where it's at for me.
Imagine warm bread with butter melting. Oh,
so good.
Next question. Right, Matthew, in your opinion, what's the biggest taboo in the gay scene sexual life, in your opinion?
I think, obviously there's nothing worse in anything than, force against people, especially children. There's obviously a lot of things that come up around that, but I think that one of the most common taboos that comes up for me, my perception is that one of the most interesting taboos about the gay culture, both when it comes to men who are dating each other, women who are dating each other, or the porn scene, for example, you know, when you view it from just that pure entertainment value, is the age gaps that happen, I would say more often than in heterosexual couples, where you see people who are more that like daddy son, you know, the role playing, the pornography, just seeing people. And it's not like most of these couples are out there looking to find a father figure or a son figure to pretend to be. I mean, we've all got our weird role playing stuff. We all like to play out different fantasies, but I think that's a big taboo for people because it's hard to wrap your brain around sometimes. But again, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, particularly in this day and age, with the men who have grown up in a culture that does not accept them, to now be in a time where they are more accepted and they're kind of coming out of the closet around the same time as some of these kids are. And so they're going through very similar experiences. And it can be really challenging to be someone who's been out of the closet for a long time and then go back in the closet essentially, or to go through all those steps again with a new person. So I've found that oftentimes when you see some of those age gaps, that can be part of the reason behind it, beyond just the general attraction to one another, is we're kind of going through the same chapter of our lives, you know, differently. We're in different places, but going through that same issue. And so it might seem strange from the outside perspective to see such an age gap between all these people. And it's easy to judge what that might be, but I think it's very healthy and normal and makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think nowadays, you know what I mean, people have different desires and different approach about sex as well. I think you just need to be understanding, you know what I mean? Even though even if it doesn't fit you, if for you it looks a bit weird or whatever, but people, they're happy.
Yeah.
There are no rules anyway. There are no rules, you know what I mean? As long as you're not hurting or you're not, you know what I mean, doing something bad, I mean, there are no rules. I think if you're comfortable with yourself, then why not be happy? That's what counts.
I agree. I mean, I think that we all put so much pressure on ourselves to be a certain type of way, and we don't realize that if it's not hurting you and it's just that person's stuff and they're not forcing their agenda on you, then again, if they're not hurting somebody physically and they're not doing anything to children, you know, it's like if it's adults with adults, then you can't. I mean, again, incest is one of the most taboo things out there beyond some of those other stuff. And yet, if somebody came to me and said they wanted to be with a member of their family and they were two consenting adults, I'd be like, good for you guys. Like, that's your life to live. Like, who am I to judge, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Next question for you is, tough question now. Let's say somebody come up to you, say, okay, you need to remove forever from your phone, YouTube or social media like Instagram altogether, Facebook or TikTok. Which one would you choose and why?
You know, I was just off of social media for about 2 years. So there's a part of me that would want to go, oh, well, I'll just take it off. But when I'm on it, I love using it, and I use it so much more than I do YouTube. So I think if I really had to pick between the two, it would be hard, but I'd go with YouTube. I'd be like, bye. Gotta keep my Instagram, my Facebook.
Very tough one. Next one, let's do it, Matthew. Next question for you is, what does money mean to you?
Money is a, you know, physicalized form of energy. You know, it is a tangible thing that we can say, I have put energy out and I have taken energy in. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out in balance. So there's a lot of people who do very little and get a lot of energy versus people who just give and give and give, and that is not financially shown in the amount of money that they have. I love money. I know that there's a lot of people who have it and they say it's the worst and it's ruined their lives. And I can see why it does. The idea that money can be the root of all evil is so powerful, because power in general, anything that gives you access and ability with that much ease, you know, we all think we want our way, but when we get it, it's a doozy.
But somebody I was watching interview like a long time ago, and this guy said, somebody asked about money, and this guy said, I prefer to come back home crying in a limousine than on the bus.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, it's true, but I think people sometimes they are ashamed or scared, afraid to talk about money. And money is good to have. I mean, I think if you work hard, you know what I mean. It's a consequence of your work, of your, you know what Absolutely. I mean. I think it's not a bad thing to love money, to like money, to be around money. It's a good thing, you know what I mean. If you work hard, if you go after it, it's part of it as well. You know what I mean. Of course, with moderation, you know what I mean. As you said about, you can get power, it can direct you in a different way, in a wrong way. But if you are you can put your mindset in a good place and use money, why not? You know what I mean? So yeah I totally agree. Why not?
It really is just like it's sort of like a drug, you know. If you moderate your alcohol or whatever it is that's your vice, then you're fine. But once it starts going down that unhealthy path, that's when you're like, okay, maybe you gotta moderate a little better.
Yeah, it's a different story. Absolutely. Next question, Matthew. For the next one, I was checking out your Instagram account, and I could see some videos, some sketch videos on your Instagram account. Tell me a little bit about what the inspiration of those videos.
Well, I always used to like to post on my Facebook little, you know, comedic to me thought bubbles over the years. And as I said, for the last couple of years I've been off, but a couple of years prior to that I started making these videos here and there that were more visual video versions of the same thing. So instead of just writing out a joke and posting it, I started kind of trying to create these little mini snippets. And that's always been a bit more my speed anyway, as far as just kind of, if writing, I'm much more of a short story writer, for example, you know, just like little snippets float around. And I kind of just keep notes in my phone about things that pop in my head that make me laugh, or thoughts, etc. And then when I have some time and I'm bored and I feel like doing a little video, I'll look through and be like, what makes me laugh right now? What's gonna make me smile and maybe make someone else smile?
Very good, very good. Next question for you is, who was your favorite teacher at school and why?
Well, in my actual school life growing up, before I started teaching college classes, my mom homeschooled us, and she was just the best about everything. But when I got to taking college classes, we had a teacher who, she was both my favorite and my least favorite teacher in some ways, because I took a college composition class with her and I hated my life the entire semester. It was one of the hardest semesters of my life. I was miserable. I complained the entire time to my mom, to my friends, to anybody who would listen. I was just not happy about it. But I managed to get, you know, an A in the class. I worked hard, I did it. And the teacher was exceptional. The thing that was the hardest about her is she did demand excellence, nothing wrong with that, but you know, everybody in the class was struggling. Most people got C's and B's, and they were saying it's just really hard because she's so mean. But she wasn't mean. She would just, you could send in essays as many times as you wanted. She would correct stuff and you got what grade you got. You know, you put in the work, you get the grade. But then the very next semester, I took her German class, and it was like night and day different. She came in with just like the most like joyful, like speaking in German, like demeanor. And it was that much more relaxed as compared to the other one, which was very like strict. So to have that be so back to back, I just loved her. She was such a great teacher.
Very good. Do you remember her name?
Her name was Sue Joy.
Oh.
And unfortunately, I don't know if she's still teaching there. I haven't seen her since then, but I just love her to death.
Very good, very good. Next one, let's do it. Okay, Matthew from Maine. Next question for you is, as a kid, have you ever stolen anything and how did it happen?
Oh my gosh, I stole when I was like 10 years old, maybe. Me and a friend of mine took keychains off of these shorts at a retail clothing store that just came with the shorts, and we took them off and we walked out the door with them. And a friend of ours found out about it and told our parents, which I don't know why she did that, like little narc. But then I told on my friend. I was like, well, she did it too, so I'm no better. You know, I was like, I'm not going down without you. You're going down. I want to even say that my friend is the one that told our friend, and that's why her parents found out. So that's why I was like, no, this was your fault. You're coming down with me.
Wow.
But that was pretty much the only thing. My dad had me go into the store, apologize to the manager, you know, do the whole thing, you know, shake his hand, like say I'll never do it again, promise to write a letter, you know, all the stuff. And it just mortified me. So that just did it in for me.
I think all of us go through the same situation as well. I remember as a child as well. It's like tempting to do something, you know what I mean? You know it's wrong.
Absolutely.
You don't do it, but you feel like doing it.
Yep. Totally.
Right, Matthew. I have 3 questions left for you, okay? Let's do it. Let's do it. Right. Before the next question, as you're saying that you have a lovely partner, what's the most beautiful lesson you learned from him so far?
The most beautiful lesson that I've learned from my partner, I would say that one thing that I'm learning from him is he's really good about when he starts to get emotional about something and frustrated, he definitely has a line. Usually he's not as communicative as I am, so he's more the type to squash things down and then explode, and then he's too far gone. But more often than not, he'll you know, ride somewhere in the middle realm where if I can tell that he's starting to get irritated by something, if I say like, hey, you know, I was just joking, or hey, like there's a misunderstanding, he's pretty good at going from like, I'm mad right now to, oh, okay. You know, which is great because I definitely can be a little more reactive and have a harder time like reeling it in and just like calming down again. So he's great about kind of grounding me in those instances where he can kind of laugh stuff off, and if I can also let it go, we won't go flying off the edge.
Let's go. Cool. Next question for you is, what's your parents did or still do that comforts you the most?
My parents have just always made me feel like no matter what my life choices were, that they would always be there for me. When the first conversation I had with either of my parents about my homosexuality was because my dad brought it up to me because he found gay porn on our computer. And so that was very awkward for me, but he was very kind to say, you know, I want you to know that whether you're gay or not, that does not affect, you know, how I feel about you. You're my son and I love you. So to be so young and to have your father who, you know, both of my parents were very conflicted about the gay thing earlier on. I was raised in a more Christian household, and so it was scary for them to wrap their brain around, especially at first, but it didn't prevent them from making sure that the driving home message was, we love you no matter what. This is just your journey.
It's interesting saying that, Matthew, because some families, they, as you said, I think you're very lucky to have your parents because they're not, let's say, the society outside so strong regarding, you know what I mean, as a Christian, you know what I mean, because of religion, society. Sometimes our parents, they get in a point that, of course, they will love us, they will support us, but for them, it's a bit hard as well because they care about us and they know how strong is the society outside and how we can be hurt as well. So for them, I'm sure it's tough sometimes. But I think we are very lucky to have parents that even though they, you know what I mean, they know how bad can be outside the society, but they support you. They want you to be yourself. So I think that's the good part. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Even though sometimes when people talk about, oh, I didn't have the support of my parents for this and that, sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes just because they've been the way they've been raised, or how the society they've been following, or religion as well. So sometimes when I see, sometimes I try to understand as well that's not their fault. They haven't been educated this way. Do you know what I mean?
So true. Yeah,
absolutely. That's what I think as well. Cool. 2 questions left. Let's do it. Right. Next question for you is, if someone come up to you to tell you about your future, would you accept it or not? And why?
I would. Yes, I probably would, honestly.
You almost said no. You almost said no.
I almost said no. I was this close, and then I almost said, well, it would depend on, different variables. But at the end of the day, I think that I probably would. I'd be more inclined. I'd be less wary of it if I knew that it was like, here are some potential options, because we've all heard those stories of people who wanted to know their future and then it was just miserable and haunted them. And that's scary. So there is a part of me that wants to say, nope, I'll just figure it out when I get there. I've never been the type of person who wants to, flip to the end of the book. I've never, I don't like to sneak around and find Christmas gifts. My brothers would used to try to like, you want us to tell you your gift? And then they'd like threaten that they would. Like, we're going to tell you what your gifts are. And I'm like, no, don't tell me. So now that I'm talking out loud about it, I might just have to say no. I might have to just completely contradict myself and say, nope, just leave it be. Unless it could help people. If they were like, if you find this out, you can save people, it'll be great. You need to do this. I'd be like, all right, okay.
Good one, good one. Last question for you. Let's do it. For the last question, as you mentioned before about the COVID crisis, your dad was living with you as well. I think the whole world was still facing some challenging times. But what's the most positive thing you took out of it so far?
I think collectively, I think that as hard as everything's been and traumatic for a lot of people in so many ways that I would never want to devalue, I do have so much hope for what good will come out of all of this. So I think I have so much positive hope for the future for everybody. But on an individual level, COVID happening pushed me to go work in a pre-K classroom for a year full-time. And prior to that, I had been working one-on-one with clients, predominantly from home. And then when my dad moved in and everything shut down, I found it, prudent to make sure I had something a little more financially stable for the time being. So I spent a school year, working in a classroom with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. There were 12 kids that we worked with. And I've grown up doing childcare stuff. I was a nanny for a few years. I've taught yoga and dance stuff to kids. I've babysat, worked in daycare settings, etc. But I'd never worked in a classroom before. And even though it's unrelated to COVID, the whole dynamic is sort of what pushed me into that. And I find that a lot of people have been forced into situations that they might not have otherwise that have turned out to be wonderful. Or things might have fallen apart that because of COVID, whether it's relationships or jobs. And as catastrophic as it feels at the time, I think that there's a lot of good transitional energy happening to force people to look at what their priorities are, where they want to be in their lives, who they want to be with. I really value the time I got to spend with these kids and with the other teachers this year to learn more from that environment, take it back with me, and implement it into my own life with my relationships, but also kind of share that with my clients moving forward. So that's been a huge part of a positive COVID message for me.
Good, very good. Last question for you is, what's the first thing you think about when you wake up?
Cuddling my partner. We cuddle every morning and every night, and I'm usually just wondering, like, is he awake? Is he up yet? Because we actually sleep in separate beds. Because I'm like a sleep talker and I move a lot. And I'm also a sensitive sleeper. So we sleep better in separate beds. But I'll get into his bed at night and cuddle and then go sleep. And then in the morning I go cuddle again before we do our coffee and tea.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Mark, it's not the end yet. Okay, let's play now the word association game. I'm going to give away some words. Just tell me one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking, okay?
Okay.
Religion.
God.
Love.
Sporadic.
Family.
Children.
Money.
Fun.
Sex.
More fun. Necessary. No.
Right. Life.
Beautiful.
Politics.
Complicated.
Fear?
That's what I'm looking for, like an obstacle. Obstacle.
How about friendship?
Support.
Desire?
Wary.
Regrets?
Bittersweet.
Success?
Mysterious.
Wish?
Happiness.
And how about happiness? One word.
Intimacy.
One word for USA.
Ridiculous.
I'll leave there.
We're just gonna leave it at ridiculous.
The last one word for personal wellness coaching.
Honor.
Good, very good. Right, so let's pretend now I'm going to meet your lovely partner for a coffee, and I'm going to ask him, what is the most beautiful thing about Matthew, and what he still needs to improve on, he needs to work on? What do you think he'll tell me?
I think that the answer is almost the same, because I was gonna say that one of the things he loves the most about me is also something that irritates him about me. He loves that I tend to be the type of person that wants to jump in and help people. I want to, be there for people, and he'll laugh at me and be like, "Oh, you just got to be such a nice guy, don't you? You got to be such a nice guy." But he loves that about me. But then there's times where he's also like, "You need to know when to not reach in and help and just let it go." So letting things go is definitely hard for me. Unfortunately, I'm just more the aggressive one, and he's more passive aggressive. So he will let something go passive aggressively, and I'm like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he's like, "Just let it go." I'm like, "Well, I would if you stopped slamming doors and acting like a fool." I'm like, "But you're not letting it go." So I think we both need to work on letting it go. But that would definitely be the one he would say, you need to work on letting stuff go when it bothers you.
Very good, very good. Let's play now Matthew and the Magic Box, and you can ask me a question. But before that, let's play the music one more time. Let's do it. You can ask me a question now.
All right, William. So my question for you is, do you believe on some level that potentially, possibly, or even probably, that we as a collective species or as the universe are actually, in fact, one organism that is connected? And if so, how does that make you, how do you wrap your brain around your level of individual responsibility versus whether or not you are actually in some way kind of mutually accountable and responsible with other people?
Wow, I love the question. Wow. Yes, I think, Matthew, all of us, we are connected somehow. I think we come to this universe, this world for a mission. Yet sometimes we even don't know which mission is, but we are here to share emotions, to make mistakes, to grow, to be a better person. I think we come to this world, everyone is as one team. Yeah, all of us as one team. I think everyone are connected for some reason. I think they connect other people's lives as well. We cross path. Sometimes we go, we have some moments in our lives, situations that sometimes we go like, those moments you go like, my God, how did it happen? Sometimes I had so many people, they share experience, how they met other people that it would be impossible. And somehow for minutes of seconds, they cross their paths and they are forever somehow. So I think, yes, all of us, we are connected. So I think we are all, as I said before, one team. We are one team, of course, with, with crash. Sometimes we have crash, we have people that's, don't agree with us or doesn't like us for some reason, but I think at the end of the day, we are all connecting and going forward somehow to get to a place or to make world a better place or a different place as well. the second part of your question is myself. I think so. I think that I think the older I get, I strongly believe that I think I have you know what I mean, a responsibility as everyone else. I think I feel that I need to always be myself, and I need always to you know what I mean, somehow do something for the words, you know what I mean, to leave my signature somehow in a positive way, you know what I mean, somehow, or maybe in a negative way as well. I think all of us, we need to understand that doing good or bad things, you know what I mean, it's gonna affect the world, or it's going to, you know what I mean, get make ourselves part of it as well. Again, back to the team as well. I believe that I have a mission, or maybe I don't know which mission is, but I think I'm just following my instincts in life, my, you know what I mean, what I believe in life, my beliefs, my thoughts. I think that's I'm contributing for the team, for our team, to somehow improve or somehow make a difference in the world. So I think all of us, we have a responsibility somehow, not like as a heavy responsibility, but some, you know, being ourselves, and just understanding that we are here for, you know what I mean, we came here for a reason, and just be yourself, because if you are yourself, you are being part of the team as one as we are in this world. Oh my God, I love the question. I'm so inspired.
Yay, I love that. Completely agree. No, great answer.
No, I think so. Yeah. So I think, I think at the end of the day, we just need to be ourselves and make sure that we are doing something for the team. I love that.
Absolutely.
For our team.
Yay.
Yeah, that's what I believe as well. Of course, make mistakes we're gonna do anyway, and it's part of it. Sometimes we're gonna do things that we are not, we are, you know what I mean, not very, let's say, proud of, you know what I mean. But in the end of the day, what counts is we are trying to get to be a better person, or to, you know what I mean, to contribute for the team, to be one team, and to live life and try to make the world a better place. I think that's my answer to you.
Absolutely, I love it.
Great. Matthew, did you have a good time?
I had such a good time. It was lovely meeting with you.
Me too. Thanks so much. You've always been sweet since the first time I approached you on social media. Straight away said, yes, I'm gonna do it. And I can see the whole energy since the first message you sent to me. I was like, okay, that one is gonna be a very good interview.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Before we go, I'd like you to share a positive message or a positive quote, something that inspires your life.
So one of my favorite quotes that I like to share comes from J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, which I've always loved. I grew up very, very obsessed with the Harry Potter series, but in the last few years, I read a quote of hers that says, we do not need magic to transform our world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already, which I love for so many reasons. And in some ways, I know what she's saying is, you know, we don't need magic. We have the power we need. But in other ways, I think there's also a way of looking at that as that's a different version of magic, and we already have all the magic we need inside ourselves. And so I just love that message.
I do, I love as well. And I think we just need to explore this magic inside of us, you know what I mean, to put it out. I think Absolutely. That's a good one. I love it. Matthew, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for the interview.
Nice meeting with you, William. Beautiful. Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you so much, William. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye-bye. See you next time.